Howdy, guys. My name's Noah. I'm subbing in for Dave today. Uh, my expertises are mostly coral and cichlids, so I'm here to cover for him, do our Q&A, and answer you guys' questions. And I'll be going over just basically my experiences with Flowerhorns and basically what I'm good at. Um, I currently have 6 Flowerhorns, 3 SRDs, one just Sensu, and 2 Confas. Um, What's interesting about Flowerhorns is they're a hybrid fish, but there's 2 main strains, which are Zenzu and Kamfa. Zenzu being what you'll most commonly see. What we usually get in the shop would be in super red dragons, whether that's like the short body variety, like short long body. There's basically every fish under the sun you can probably imagine. There's a Flowerhorn variety that encompasses it. Like I said, they're a hybrid. Um, Not I can't quite remember the original mixture, but a lot of Midas, and they're definitely in my like top 5 meanest cichlids. I mean, they are just robustly angry. Like, talk about a fish that's like the guy that just runs up and punches you in the back of the head for no reason. I have one that'll take chunks out of my hand when I'm doing water changes, and shockingly, shockingly violent. I put them up there even with like jaguars and dovi when it comes to just pure attitude. Um, but I think we have some people checking in now, so feel free to throw some questions in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. I know as many of you have been in the store, we know we've been having some really exciting times. Just wanted to say thank you to everybody that comes on the weekends for your continued patience and kindness to us as we try to keep things caught up and get everybody help in a timely manner. It means a lot to us, and we love seeing all you guys in the store. We hope to continue to see you and get you helped out and get you the highest quality fish possible. And speaking of that, we have a shipment in this Thursday, and I will still be covering for Dave then. I'll be going live and going through our fish list. Pretty sure we've got some cool stuff coming in this week on the salt and fresh side. But one thing I'll touch on too is, as many of you know that have come into the store, we've got some really cool frag selections that have been coming out there in our troughs. New focus on that, and they're really cool. I personally am a big fan of the Euphilia, but definitely come in and check those out because we've got some really cool options right now, especially in the torch department. If I remember correctly, we have some fat tentacle like neon greens and some really cool like peach tipped kind of. The fancy names are something else, man. Hard to keep track of. Famgi, hello. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining in on us. Like I said, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I know I'm a different face, but I'll do my best to answer them as thoroughly and as proficiently as Dave does. But anyways, I got off topic, back to the Flowerhorn thing. We actually have some short body Flowerhorns in the shop right now. I believe we have like 2 left. Both have very nice pearling, nice flower lines. Basically, what pearling is on a Flowerhorn is the blue chrome speckles that you see on them. The denser they are, the nicer a Flowerhorn is, until you get to the point you get into high silk and titanium where they're almost flat blue. And a flower line is the black spots along the central line of the fish. There's multiple different fancy names. It's basically, I would compare it to like guppies, where there's all sorts of different names for the different color matchups and patterns. Pretty hard to keep track of, if I'm honest. But care requirements for Flowerhorn, they are a lot of what they are is falls under the usual Central South American cichlid category. Will you have an eel? Is there any eel you were looking for? Freshwater, salt? We currently have in some cool, I don't remember the exact species, but they are a relative of the tire track. They stay a little smaller, though. On the freshwater side, we commonly get in fire eels and tire tracks, peacocks, stuff like that. And saltwater, we've had snowflakes, stuff like that. And, I mean, we can get a wide variety of things for you. But maybe both. Yeah, like I just said, we can get them for you if we don't have them. Our special order system is really cool, so make sure give the shop a call if you figure out what variety you want, and we'll get those ordered for you. But like I said, I know for a fact right now we have that smaller freshwater variety. I think the recommended for them is 55, kind of in that area. Pretty cool though. Really, really cool. Wish I had a photo I could pull up, but definitely come check them out, because if you like eels, you'll like them. I was spent about 10 minutes today, like just admiring them. They're really, really cool. But yeah, I personally, hi Ryan, good to see you in the chat. Welcome back to the live stream, I guess. But to finish up what I was saying, fam, yeah, we get eels in freshwater more often than saltwater. But like I said, definitely call in and give us any requests you have. Anyways, so like I was saying, with Flowerhorns on care, the big thing that I see a lot of people there. So I would compare the Flowerhorn community to the beta community. Very passionate, very knowledgeable, with lots of opinions. I love them all. I've met some incredible people, like through the UFA, the United Flowerhorn Association, which they are host most of the competition. So in the United States, more and more, and they host actual competitive competitions like dog showings for Flowerhorns. And I actually had the privilege of going and watching one in Chicago at Aquascape, and it was very interesting. A lot of very, very pretty fish. Oh, got a new. Hi, Nicole. Here's the long question for you. I'll see if I can put that up on the screen. So we have Nicole asking, I have an aquascape that was started 16 days ago that is dosed with Seek and Flourish root tabs and stability as prescribed on the bottle for a new aquarium. Yesterday, for the first time, I tested the water's quality, which came back zero. So Nicole, on pH, do you know what kind of fish you want to keep? Because 8.5, well water, even in Indiana, you'll struggle to find water that's kind of below that pH. If you have below an 8.0 pH in Indiana, you consider yourself lucky, even on well. So this is my opinion, but I'm going to throw this out there. In my experience, like I have 16 freshwater tanks. I've done RO, planted, aquascape, all sorts of stuff like that. And in my experience, the key to success with most fish is a consistent pH, not a specific pH, unless you're talking about extremes. And most fish, unless you're trying to keep discus, stuff that's sensitive, will acclimate to pH. What's more dangerous than that 8.5 pH, in my opinion, would be rapidly swinging it. Although there are ways to correct it. Like, I mean, you can add different, but I would go for all natural solutions before I would add any chemicals. I know that was kind of rambling answer to your question, but if you wanted me to elaborate on anything, let me know. But TLDR, I would say I would not be as concerned about the pH unless you're keeping fish that are very, very picky about it. Like I said, even my cichlids, my Central South America, I know African cichlids are a different deal. They're kept in Indiana tap. Generally, the pH varies in my tanks like 8.3, 8.5, and my fish are perfectly happy, perfectly healthy. Okay, so you plan on getting 1 female beta, 6 ember tetras, and 3 cherry shrimp. 14 ounce. Honestly, I would be wary that that female beta might munch on those shrimp, but you can always get one that's totally mellow. But honestly, that sounds fine to me. I don't think any of those fish will have any issues in the pH you described. Ember tetras can be a little sensitive, but like I said, at the very most, you would probably want to maybe even try drip acclimating. But yeah, like I said, I believe that that's a pretty good sized tank, and with heavily planting and with the female beta, it should be all right. It's one of those things that with 90% certainty we can say yeah, but you can't tell the future. The best thing to do is just add them, observe. I would add them as close to each other so nobody develops like the female beta doesn't get a territory, then you add the embers and all of a sudden, oh hey, they're in my space. It's better to acclimate them into the tank and around the same time. And so no, I was your OT. I'm doing well. It's good to see you in the chat. Definitely missed the summer of not having being under lockdown. It was a good time. But yeah, thank you guys for all the questions and comments. I appreciate it. But back to, and like I said, don't feel free to interrupt me at any time. I'm just rambling, waiting for people to ask questions but I'm going to talk about what I like. Flower horns, generally where I see a lot of people mess up with them is there's some people that say, yeah, you grow out in like a 40 gallon, 55 gallon, but of course, Nicole, we are happy to help. And yeah, YouTube's pretty picky about the long paragraphs. I've been there, done that. Like I said, before I worked at the Reef, I was a customer coming in asking questions, and I know that's one thing I love about the Reef is the happiness to answer questions. So it's my favorite thing to do when I come to work is answer people's questions. People should, in my opinion, people should never feel intimidated to learn more, and I think that's the cornerstones of the hobby. Are the fact that we learn from each other. You know, there's certain fish that are rare, corals that are rare, that it takes individual hobbyists taking the time to learn how to care for them and then sharing that information to kind of thrive and teach other people. But yeah, and always feel free if you have any more questions or like emergency questions, something goes wrong, always feel free to come in or call the store. Message the Facebook page. Me and Dave will get right back with you. We like I said, we love answering questions. I mean, we all have tanks at home. We've all had the same questions, and it's a real joy being able to answer those for people. But anyway, yes, so I always recommend people, if you have a flower and you want to grow it out, they are I hate to say this, but they are the closest thing to an instant gratification fish you can get. I have had Flowerhorn that darn near put on an inch a month. They have an incredibly fast growth rate if you feed them correctly. And so I usually recommend people, that 75 gallon, which is my recommended minimum for a Flowerhorn, looks kind of big for that tiny Flowerhorn, but give it a few months and it'll fill out. They are, I mean, and of course they're a hybrid, so you have variables. Like sometimes you get a Flowerhorn that grows a little slower, but like 5 out of the 6 I own, they're putting on some crazy size. I have a koi beta. Here we got another question from Fam. Koi beta and 2 snails in a 5-gallon tank with fake plants. Cave in a barrel with a heater. No, that sounds like a great setup. 5-gallon tank is perfect for a beta. That's my preferred minimum. Some people, it's an area of contention in the hobby that minimums, there's certain minimums, but 5 gallons is where is the minimum I keep mine in. I always say that as long as the fake plants are soft, no sharp edges, and as long as it doesn't seem like there's any rips in your beta's fins, perfectly happy. Heated, filtered, I mean, it sounds like you're pretty well set. And a big thing to observe too is just observe your fish. If your fish seems happy and it's thriving, eating, there's a really common phrase in the hobby is surviving versus thriving. A surviving fish is alive, but it's just kind of there. But a thriving fish is active, colorful, and eats they go after food. But in your setup, I imagine your fish is pretty happy. But yeah, if you have any other questions, let me know. So, but like I said, with Flowerhorns, that's another big thing. I said something about food. This is where it gets opinion-based and experience-based. And a lot of people have different regimens. But in my opinion, the best thing to do is to get a general broad cichlid or a lower protein Flowerhorn food. Because a lot of the marketed Flowerhorn foods, like amazing ones such as like Excalibur, are amazing. But if you feed like their higher protein mixes constantly instead of like maybe 3 out of 5 days a week, it can cause. Yes, very good catch, Nicole. I would definitely get a thermometer. I have had my fair share of disasters with faulty heaters, and it is no fun. Definitely, and we have those at the store. We have a wide variety of them. We have the regular glass and digital thermometers. So I'd definitely come in and grab one of those. Thank you for pointing that out, Nicole. I appreciate it. So, I think the biggest thing that kills the most people's flower horns at the youngest age will be the parasitic version of hexamida or hexatema. And in my opinion, in my experience, after my first flower horn passed from it, a excessive diet of higher protein above 50% can lead to hexatema. Hi, Moonfruit. Nice to see you in here. And yeah, will we train our parrot how to talk more? We're trying. As he kind of has a free and strong spirit. So don't. I love her. I've told a lot of people this to come and ask in the store. Ezzy was the big reason I adopted my own parrot. But I always tell people that they are a lot of work. They're a big commitment. The best way I can put it is you have to be willing to raise a 3-year-old for 75 years. But yeah, so I always do. My favorite mixture is I mix a bit of Excalibur and a bit of like Hikari together in a bowl, and I'll feed that just so there's a good mixture. And we have a lot of the Hikari products in the store. Make sure you come check those out. Feeding is a big, important cornerstone of flower horn keeping. Hello. So we got Big City Betas, and hi there. Yes, I do remember meeting you. We talked briefly when you came into the store, and I'm happy to report that you have gotten me way into the wild type betas. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you at another talk or more beta pictures on Instagram. But yeah, I've definitely did some more research as you suggested, and they're fascinating fish. I absolutely love them. We've had some pretty cool ones come through the store. Unfortunately, I'm sure I'm slow on the draw, but definitely have had some really cool ones to the store that I'm thinking about picking up and setting up some tanks for them. But like I was saying, feeding is like with flower horns, they're one of those fish that are going to come up and they're going to beg and they're going to be super cool to feed, but you have to make sure not to overfeed them. They have very, very weak digestive systems. They're so easy to like overfeed and cause issues with. I promise you, after you've fed him, no matter how hungry he is after feed, he is full. You have to remember, fishes, their stomachs are pretty small. Even those big guts on the larger flower horn. But and for temperature, keeping them, I always recommend. This is the thing about talking about flower horns is they're super opinion based. A lot of people have different experiences with them. Due to them being a hybrid, it's sometimes a mishmash of different care requirements. But I will say most of the time, heat around the same. I usually keep mine at 80. They like a little bit toastier water. I've not had the success that other people preach when they keep them at 84, although I won't discredit that experience. I mean, like I said, they're a pretty variable fish. And there's a few different differences, in my opinion, between the Confa and the Zenzu. Or the super, like we'll just say super red dragons. That's the most common ZZ that you see in the hobby. And of course I could be wrong. I still learn just like everybody else. My super reds are definitely not I hate to say active, but they don't appreciate flow as much as the Confa. Neither appreciates a ton of flow, but I noticed that when I have a little bit, my filter going a little stronger in my Confa tanks, they're happier. But if I have it at the same in my SRD tanks, they're a little angry at me. So that's another interesting thing to point out, the differences between them. Definitely. And it's an exciting time to get into flower horn keeping right now, as there's more and more availability in the United States for the more fascinating varieties, like my favorites being like Fireman's Dream, like two-tone Confas, any kind of golden base. I mean, they're just so beautiful. I'd argue one of the prettiest freshwater fish you can get your hands on. They're just amazing. And plus, I mean, you're talking about a fish that less like a fish, more like a puppy. Hansel asks, what are some fish mates for discus? Really, my favorite combos are being a lot of different tetra species. Anything that is non-aggressive won't nip their fins. I've seen them kept with some people keep them with angels. Well, a disclaimer: I've never kept discus, not yet. But from what I've met quite a few really proficient discus keepers and talked to them extensively, and it seems like I see a lot of neon tetras, a lot of small fish like that kept in large schools and large tanks with them. Um, you don't want their fins to get nipped, and I think neons are a really cool one because they kind of they draw out the size of the discus when they get towards full grown. The contrast between like a large food plate sized discus and a neon tetra is pretty fascinating. And they add a lot of motion to the tank. Very, very cool. Cory cats are another great one. There's a large variety of Cory cats. There's basically, you can find any pattern on a Cory cat to tickle your fancy. There's tons. In a larger tank, you can look at like fancy Pleco varieties. Although I always tell people, don't get a Pleco because you want to eat your algae. Get it because you like the Pleco. Although they're not hard to like. There's lots of cool ones like blue and green phantoms, snowballs. One of my recent favorites, a smaller variety, is the Inspector Plecos. We've gotten those in a few times. You mind if I ask what size is your tank, Ansel? Because you have to remember, a discus get pretty large, and they are a lot of people, including myself, consider them one of the hardest freshwater fish to keep alive. They are definitely prefer RO. Definitely, you have to make sure that water is spotless clean. So yeah, a 30-gallon would probably be a little too small for discus. I would definitely maybe look at similar to discus being. I mean, you could maybe do a grow out tank for an angels before you move into a slightly bigger tank. Gourami, there's a lot of cool gourami species that have similar color, but a discus would definitely outgrow that size tank, unfortunately. But I know I've been there. I wish I could keep them in that. I wish they would find a fish that looked like the discus, just smaller package. And yeah, I totally agree with you. Although you have to remember, Nicole, there are a lot of dwarf varieties of the Pleco. We like the Inspector Pleco. The 30 gallons is usually good for a Inspector. Although they are a little more sensitive, but they're very cool. And no worries, Hansel. I was happy to answer your question. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that, unfortunately, like I think full-grown discus. I mean, we have a really beautiful big blue one in our display tank right now. I mean, they're hard not to love. I mean, they're such gorgeous fish. They're just so cool. I mean, I'll never forget my first time coming into the reef and going in that back corner and seeing our tank with all the net plants and the discus and just the colors are just so cool. And here we go. Are setting up ponds easy? I'm interested in putting one in a pond in the backyard with koi. It depends on your handy level. Generally, they're not difficult. Just I would say go as large and as deep as you can with a pond. I feel like that's the best way to save yourself a headache, but really it's not too hard. I've personally thought about it. Wish my HOA would let me put one in. But and I would definitely call into the store and talk. Maybe we can even get help getting you a pond set up. But you have to remember koi get pretty big too. But in a pond, it's a little bit easier. It's not as expensive to set up like a big pond as it is a huge tank necessarily. But the big point of ponds being is depending on depth, it'll depend on if you can leave them and winter them, or if you have to bring them inside and do a holdover tank during winter. And I agree. But yeah, koi are very, very cool fish. It's amazing some of the different color varieties they get. But yeah, definitely I think that it is not too difficult to get a good pond set up. I've seen quite a few nice ones. Another thing to be mindful with ponds is you want to make sure you have things to protect your fish from predators. In Indiana, we have a wide variety of nuisance predators like blue herons, and not nuisances, but they'll eat your fish, like raccoons and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, I'll go out on a limb and say I totally agree with you. We make sure when we have people come to the store looking for plecos that they're well educated on the future size of the fish before they leave. I'm one of those people that really emphasizes on making sure that when somebody walks out the door that they have all the information they need. Plecos are amazing. They're a really cool species of fish. I mean, they're super unique, but they have a lot of them have large care requirements that a lot of people aren't aware of, and a lot of times not to their fault. There's a lot of conflicting information, but common plecos especially are one that definitely are what I call a tank buster. They get huge. We have more fish. You mean in store? Yeah, we have shipments coming in every week, restocking our fish with a bunch of really cool options. Like I said, I will be going live this Thursday to go through everything we got in this week. Like I said, and I'm looking forward to that because as much as I am a worker, as most of the time when I'm off the clock, I end up being a customer. This hobby has been nothing but good to me. I love this. I love my tanks, love my fish, and I love working. I love being, like I said, love the knowledge sharing. That's my big passion is just getting together with other fish keepers and learning more and helping others. It's a real joy for the hobby, especially like my favorite is, you have people coming to the store that are just as excited as you were when you first got started to get their first tank set up, and to have them leave and to have them come back and be successful at it. That makes me feel good because that means I did my job right in getting them set up correctly. And I can, everyone in our store all have a passion for this hobby and love it. And I can't tell you how many times, because I've come into the Reef when I was a customer, and I would have been totally unsuccessful had I not come in here, asked the question first, and had them steer me in the right direction. I'll never forget Dave selling me my second beta tank that kind of started the downward spiral into what spiraled into my fish room. A lot of good memories there. And thank you, Nicole. This has been a big, like I used to, like I was going to talk about, I used to breed Flowerhorn very briefly, because it is not easy, not as easy as other things. With Flowerhorns being a hybrid, their infertility rate, it's better now, especially among like super red dragons and stuff like that. Confas have pretty high infertility in my experience, but it's hard to get a pair that is fertile and willing to not kill each other. I think we had some people in here from the Aquarium community Discord server, which is awesome to see. And the next thing I'll touch on, like I talked a little bit before, with tank mates for Flowerhorns, I generally recommend nothing. They'll kill it or they'll maim it. They're so mean. And in my opinion, it's when you put, even if you have a successful tank, I've seen a few successful tanks with the tank mates, you lose so much of the personality of the fish because they're Hansel, isn't it? I know there's a competition for Flowerhorns. Did you compete before? I've never competed yet. It's something I plan to do in the future. I know people that have competed. Like I said, I've been to the competitions. I know there's a lot of people in Indy that have award-winning fish, and I've been privileged to see them. I can't describe the amazing fish they have at these competitions. I mean, I was blown away. So a really great thing to check out would be the United Flowerhorn Association, which does a lot of these competitions. Get some pretty cool fish there and see where they're doing their events. Of course, kind of put on hold with quarantine. But once we're out of quarantine, I imagine competitions will start going back up. But, and long story short, no, I have not competed yet, although it is a desire of mine to try someday. Pretty cool experience, even just seeing it from afar. I think I don't think any of my fish are quite as nice, although some of them are pretty close. The ones I've gotten from some of the local guys, and J4 Aquatics are pretty nice Flowerhorns. But there's a level, so there's something in the how they call grooming. They groom Flowerhorns, so it's feeding specific foods, doing exercise, like they'll hold up mirrors or other, like a little flower, and basically let them get their aggression out. Because as they express that aggression, it draws out their colors, makes them feel like they're the dominant, and basically enhances their quality, as some people say. But yeah, the whole like niche of the hobby when it comes to being like around Flowerhorns, I absolutely love it. It's such a cool community around Flowerhorns. Like there's community. That's what another thing I love about the hobby is that there's such neat. Basically, if there's a fish you really like, there's a community around it of people that think just like you, that like them just as much as you. Oh, we got another question from Fam. Will you have salamanders? Unfortunately, no, we do not have reptiles in store. The only non-fish we have is Ezzy, and she is an employee. But yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, so that's what I always tell people. Another knowledge base or a place to share your passions is just to find other groups, and like the CCAC is a great place. Got another question. Will you travel to Asia one day? I know there's a big Flowerhorn comp there. I know there. Yes, I would love to travel there someday. Love to go see the competitions, and I've always, it's on my bucket list to go on just basically go around the world, learning about different natural habitats of these different species of fish I've kept. And you're correct, fam. I messed that up. I apologize. But long story short, outside of like axolotls, that we don't really carry anything like that. But you are correct. Fam corrected me on it is not a reptile, it is an amphibian. But like I said, all I've kept is fish and a parrot. But like I was saying, yeah, like I'd love to go scuba diving, see coral reefs and stuff like that. But so I'll wrap up our stream for today with a final word about Flowerhorns. I would definitely, if you have like a 75-gallon tank and want something that is interactive, unique, and basically will wow anyone that comes over to see it, Flowerhorn is the way to go. I know it sounds crazy to put one in one tank, but it's worth it. Super cool fish. But like I said, thank you to everybody for tuning in today. I will see you guys Thursday to go through our fish shipment. I know I'm still adapting to this, but Dave will be back next week, answer your questions. And I hope to see you guys in the store. If you guys come in and to shop around, make sure to say hi. I appreciate you guys. See you next time.